Okay, so today we are going to sculpt a Christmas teddy bear. First things first, get all your clay. We have teddy bear brown, darker brown for his nose, red for the hat, white for the trim, and pre-made polymer clay eyeballs. Tools are a knitting needle with a tapestry needle on the end, very useful, smaller knitting needle, straight blade, wire cutters, wire, and this is how I do my liquid polymer clay. Very useful, very easy to use like this. Now, we need to start out with the body. And I don't really measure anything, I just kind of eyeball it up. We don't want this too big because it's going to be a Christmas ornament, so we don't want anything too heavy. And you just roll a little bear body shape. Flatten the bottom a little bit so he sits real nice. And I think we'll do the head next. Now once again I just eyeball the size. I can always make it bigger or smaller if I'm not real happy with it. Maybe a little bit smaller because I'll be adding the muzzle, so that'll add some bulk to it. Okay, that looks about right. Good size. Now for the ears, I just pinch on either side of his head. Pinch him in a little bit, pinch him in. I take this, roll them flat, and just kind of continue to shape them. And they'll get distorted as I sculpt the rest of them, but they can always be reshaped. You can also make the ears separately and attach them. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Now this is how I'm going to do it today. Now I'm going to make some little indents for the eyes, just to kind of give me an idea where they're going to go. And they go just about in the center of the ears here. And you want to try and get them centered, which isn't always easy. Okay. And we take our little polymer eyeballs here. Handy dandy little things. I make up a whole bunch of these at once. And just to make sure these stick real well, put on a little drop of liquid polymer clay. And this acts like a glue. Once it's baked, it's not coming off. Just little eyeballs in there. Eyeballs. And press them in a little bit. Try not to get that liquid polymer clay all over. It gets kind of sticky. And it's okay that the eyes look a little big right now because I'm going to give him eyebrows and eyelids. So that'll cover that up a little bit. But I want to sculpt his muzzle next. The way I do it is I just get a general idea of how big I want it to be. This is Calcifer, and Calcifer always likes to help. And let's see here. That's bigger than what I want. So take off a little clay. And try it again. Of course, you can always measure this out if you'd like, so you have exact dimensions. And I think that'll probably be good. And then what I do is I split it up into 3 balls. Try to get 2 a little bit larger than the third, and this is the muzzle. Okay, and sometimes I get it just right the first time. And we put them together in a little triangular shape. like this, you see. And then you press that to the face, right in the center there. And already you can see he's looking pretty cute. You don't want to flatten it too much, but you want to make sure you've got a good bond. What I like to do is take my knitting needle and just kind of smooth the seams a bit. And if your clay is well conditioned, then this should go fairly smoothly. Okay. I don't like to smooth the seams of the top of the muzzle too much. I like to keep it pretty rounded. Just a little bit maybe. But as you press the clay, it makes a good bond there. And the nose will help it stick as well. And I'm going to take some of this dark brown clay for the nose. You can use black if you like. That's too big already, I can tell. And the nice thing about polymer clay, you can always smush it and start over again. And I make sort of a little triangle shape, which will be refined as I press it onto his little face. Just kind of press the point right in there and smoosh it down gently. You always want to be gentle. Get too violent with your smushing and you just end up with a mess. There we go. Round that over, and that helps form a real nice bond there with the muzzle and the face. Oh, isn't that cute? I may not even give this guy eyebrows and eyelids. He's kind of cute with the big eyes. Attach it to the body here, and then just press it. And I'll end up putting a wire through the center of this and out the top of his head for a hook. So there will definitely be a secure bond between the body and the head, but I'm also making sure I blend the seams. And you just take the clay from the head and roll it onto the body and go all the way around. And if the neck gets too thick, you can always thin it out. Just kind of roll the knitting needle around and thin it out. And I'm thinking I'm going to give this guy a scarf too, so I definitely don't want the neck too thick. I don't want it to be too bulky. And of course, when you do things like scarves, it adds a little strength and stability to the neck area too. Blend those little seams in there. By the time you're done, you can't even tell that it's two separate pieces. He's pretty cute. Okay, and that's what we've got so far. And then next, I believe I'm going to do his little legs, his rear legs. Just kind of take a chunk of clay. I always start out with a nice smooth ball, no matter what shape I'm going to make. That makes it a lot easier to come up with a nice smooth cylinder or whatever else you're making. And I start out rolling it in my hands, and then I roll it on my work surface for a nice smooth edge or finish. Now we get the, I always put it up against the creature I'm making to see if the diameter is right. I think that is about right there. And I'm not really precise all the time with my cuts. I just use my nails a lot of times to at least mark it, because this part's going to be blended into his body anyway. And then I just match it up. I take the other side, which is already rounded nicely, match it up, cut it even, and we have two paws started out. Now, I give him a little wrist because I want his paw to be a little fatter than his arm. And then I flatten it out a little bit. Same thing for the other one. And like I said, I kind of eyeball it, and Calcifer says hello. Say, hello, Calcifer. Thank you for your help. Okay. Hello. Aren't you a nice kitty? Thank you. Alright, now that he's had his say, there's a reason I'm called Creative Critters. And back to the bear. Okay, flatten the paw. We have two cute little paws there. And this is where the tapestry needle comes in to make your little lines for your toes. Now, I think I'm going to do 3 toes because this is a small paw. So, about 1/3 of the way over, just make a little indent and round it and push. 1/3 of the way over, round it and push. And there you have cute little paws. And the same thing for the other one. And if his paw was a little bit bigger, I'd give him 4 toes, but I don't know, something about 3 toes is cute and whimsical anyway, so that works out. But I flatten his shoulders a little bit. You don't want him to have big giant shoulders. Okay, now, sometimes the best way to do this is to kind of place them both at the same time so you get them nice and even. Get your placement before you really smush them on there. Give a good press all the way around. And then we go back to our knitting needle and just blend the seams of the shoulders in here. Oh yeah, these were going to be back paws. Oh well, we got front paws. That's okay, the back paws and the front paws are the same basic size. The back paws will just have feet on them. And our seams, do a little bit with my fingers. And if he's a little uneven, you can always, move his shoulders a little bit and even him out. There's a lot of readjusting as you sculpt and fixing anything you may have accidentally squished out of shape. So we've got some cute little front paws. Now we'll go to the back paws, and I think we're going to need more clay here. So roll ourselves another ball of clay. And this one I think I'm actually going to make a little bit thicker because I want him to have bigger feet. That's about right. And for this one, it needs to be, the back legs need to be a little longer because you're going to bend the foot up. I'll show you that in a second. Now, let's see here. I'd say about a third of your little log becomes the foot, and you just kind of push. And look at that. Cute little foot. Of course, you can refine the ankle a little bit, narrow it some. I like to do a little roll around the ankle. That helps to narrow it out. And then round out the toes, because this isn't a human foot, this is a bear's foot, so it's a lot rounder. And the same thing here. About a third of your log gets pushed up into the foot. Narrow that little heel of his. Narrow the ankle. Just roll it between your index fingers. Round and shorten the foot a little bit. You want it narrower at the heel and wider at the toes. Okay. Oh, look at that. I even actually got them the same length. And if they're not the same length, you can always stretch one or cut off the extra on another. Okay. We'll do 3 toes again because that's what we did for the front paws. Same thing. Press and roll, press and roll. And then if you want to define it a little on the top, you see a very cute little foot there. And same thing here. Okay, and then we'll narrow the top of the leg a little bit so that it blends into the body a little easier. Come here, cutie. Let's see here. It's just about right. Oh, and I do like that. I think he's looking pretty good. And I never know how these are going to come out until they're done. Every single one comes out just a little bit different, which is the fun of handmade. There's a definite uniqueness, and I like that. Everything's one of a kind. Everything I make anyway. And that's all by hand. All those seams. Okay, now. It doesn't take very much. Okay, and there's a very cute little teddy bear there. Isn't he adorable? But he's not done yet because he's going to be a little Santa bear with a little Santa hat. And yes, I do like the idea of a scarf. I think a scarf would be nice, so get some of our red here. Start out with a ball. This also helps soften and warm the clay, so it's easier to shape and blend. Roll this out. Okay, this is going to be more than I actually need. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of measure it, wrap it around, and get the general length that I want. And as I flatten this little piece out, it's going to become a bit longer, so keep that in mind. And I just flatten. You can do this with a clay roller or with your pasta machine, but just for the sake of speed here, I'm just going to press it with my finger. And it gives it a natural feel too, because this is supposed to be a knit scarf. Okay, that's about right. And since it is a knit scarf, I'm going to press lines about 1/4 of an inch all the way down. so that it looks like the knitting. And you can also texture this too. It's a lot of fun to try pressing the clay against different types of fabric and see what kind of effects you can get. Lace is a lot of fun. That makes some really fun impressions. But just about any kind of fabric with a nice texture will show up very nicely on the clay and make a really interesting effect. So that's something to try. And then for the ends, you can see it's all nicely indented here. I'm going to make the ends look like fringe, and I just take the tapestry needle. I hold it on my finger. That's comfortable for me. And just pull lines down through it. And I make the lines on the side kind of go off to the side a little bit to make it look like the fringe of a knit scarf. And do the same thing for the other side. And if you're using a needle for this, be careful because it can hurt. I have stabbed myself more times than I can count, which is why the tapestry needle's a little bit safer. It's not as sharp. And then we take a little bear and wrap his scarf. And it did get a bit longer, but that's okay. I like that look for this one. And actually, I think what I will do, so you can have a lot of fun with the placement here. I think this one's going to go over his shoulder like that. I like that look. But I also want to press it to his body because this is going to be a Christmas ornament. So you don't want anything that's going to break off easily. If it was just a sculpture and would just be sitting on a shelf, that's one thing. But you have to consider how your piece is going to be used. And that's another reason I'm going to kind of press his paws to his toes so that that forms one piece there. And we're less likely to have anything breaking off. Okay, now for the hat. We're going to need more than this. Now this takes a little bit of practice to figure out exactly how much clay you're going to need. Now, roll a ball, then roll a little triangle here. Kind of place it. You know, I think I've got too much there. It just kind of feels too big. And I do a lot of my sculpting by feel. Just seeing how it feels to me. I've also been doing this for more than 10 years, so I've gotten a pretty good feel for the clay. Okay, flatten our bottom. I think that'll be better. Now I want to hollow it out. And I'll use my large knitting needle for that. And let's see here. I'll do it on the table here. And just press and roll all the way around to thin out the edges and to widen the bottom of the hat. Don't know if you, no, you can't really see that, can you? Well, here. You can see the knitting needle in here. I'll do it on my hand. Maybe you can see that better. And just roll it. And it does work on your hand too. It's just easier on a flat surface. But I just roll it around here. And that gives us a thinner edge. And we should be able to put it on his little head. Isn't that cute? Okay, now let's see here. I think I want to do a little pom-pom. And wipe my hands off here because red clay likes to share its color with everything. And red and white makes pink. So, we don't want a pink pom-pom, we want a white pom-pom. Just take a little tiny bit of clay, roll it into a ball. Okay. Check the size. And, alright, this is the way I do it. I poke a tiny little hole in it to give the tip of the hat somewhere to sit. And then, this is the real trick here. This is what really does it, is this liquid polymer clay. Just a tiny little dot in there. And that will help it to really stick to the tip of the hat. I'll narrow the tip enough to get it in there. And just kind of press it and make sure you have a good connection there. And it already took a cute little turn all by itself, which I always like. Now, you gotta play around to see which side looks best. And for me, I always like it hanging off the side like that rather than right in the middle. Right in the middle looks like a dunce cap to me. So, and the way it turns off to the side here, it always, to me, has to go to the outside. So, we will put this on here like this, and because I think that's the side I want it to go to. So, do that like that. With a little more of a bend, maybe. And then we need the white trim around the bottom of the hat. Once again, just roll a ball, which turns into a snake. And this one doesn't have to be real even because it's kind of looking like the fluffy white stuff around the bottom of the hat, the fleecy stuff. So it doesn't have to be perfectly even all the way around. You don't want it too thick either. You don't want to, it's easy to get too bulky when you're working with miniatures. You kind of got to keep everything small, thin. Okay, well, I generally like to keep my seams towards the back. So the seam where this will connect is in the back here. And if you do have a little bit of red clay on the white, just try and turn it to the back so nobody sees it. You can also dig it out or just start over again. And I sort of like the way he's got the one eye covered. I think that adds a little cuteness. You just gently press. And this I'm just going to cut off with my nail. Sometimes nails come in handy. I'll put the seam right there. Gently press all the way around. And then we want to get that seam so that it's not quite so obvious. And this you can also just pull the clay to get started. And then roll it to smooth it out. And then we need the wire for the hanger. And I just, let's see here, I don't want it too big. I don't know, 3 inches. Once again, I eyeball it. Use my wire cutter, snip it off. And then to make it nice and round, I like this trick. Wrap it around either a paintbrush handle or the handle of your knitting needle. Oops, drop it on the floor. Twist, 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 twist. Okay, now, put this pretty much in the center. And let us get our knitting needle and poke a hole where we want it. Carefully, 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 carefully. Now, the reason I poke a hole first instead of just shoving the wire in is this keeps it a lot smoother and makes it much easier to insert the wire without distorting the rest of the sculpture. back to our liquid polymer clay. This will make sure this thing does not come out. The twists also help to grab the clay. But this, I don't know, there's just no such thing as too secure. Let me stick that in the little hole. Press it right down in there. All the way down. And then I like to kind of seal that up a little bit. You've got a little bit of a hole there, so just seal that up by rolling over it a bit. And then bake this guy at, well, depending on your clay, follow your clay instructions, but I'm using Primo, so I'll bake him for an hour at 275 degrees Fahrenheit. And then I'll leave him in the oven until it's completely cool. So he'll actually have about 2 hours in the oven. But that is our cute little Christmas ornament. Isn't he adorable? Thanks for joining me. Happy holidays!